Hello students, in last lecture we have started 10th science paper second unit number 2, that is living organisms life processes part 1. In this we have seen that living organisms and energy production. So in this topic we have seen that for the production of energy nutrients are important, also oxygen which is inhaled by the process of respiration, it is also important. And then inside the cell there is a oxidation of nutrients and there is a formation of energy. So in this point we have seen that respiration which is take place by two levels, that is body level and second one is cellular respiration. Also we have seen the concept of cellular respiration, that is oxidation of nutrients inside the cell with or without oxygen is called as a cellular respiration. And then we have seen that cellular respiration is done by two methods, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, out of which aerobic respiration, this process we have seen in last lecture. In this process oxidation of glucose occurs step by step. It consists three steps, that is glycolysis, tricarboxylic acid cycle and electron transfer chain reaction, that is ETC reaction. So these processes we have seen in last lecture. In short, we will see first one is glycolysis. In glycolysis we have seen that glucose molecule it is oxidized. Glucose molecule is oxidized step by step into two molecules of pyruvic acid. See what happens in this process. Also a chart is given in which carbohydrates, that is glucose, which is converted into two molecules of pyruvic acid as well as two molecules of ATP and NADH2 molecules with water. So this process is called as a glycolysis, that is conversion of glucose into pyruvic acid. Then next we have seen that this process, that is glycolysis, it is take place in cytoplasm, and pyruvic acid which is formed during the glycolysis, see this pyruvic acid which is formed during the glycolysis is converted into a molecules of acetyl coenzyme. So this pyruvic acid molecules converted into a acetyl coenzyme and along with two molecules of NADH2 and carbon dioxide is also formed. So this is all about this glycolysis. Now this process, that is a process of glycolysis, this was discovered by three scientists, that is Gustav Emden, then Otto Merhoff and Jacob Parnas. So along with their colleagues, this process of glycolysis was discovered by these scientists. So for this purpose, this process or glycolysis, this process is also called as a EMP pathway. So it is also called as a EMP pathway. So glycolysis is also known as a EMP pathway. This EMP denotes the name of scientist who discovered this process. So EMP, it means Emden, M for Merhoff and P for Parnas. So EMP pathway, it also means glycolysis. So you have to remember that glycolysis has another name, that is EMP pathway. So in glycolysis, this glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. Now next process that we have seen, tricarboxylic acid cycle. So in this process we have seen that when acetyl coenzyme is entered into a mitochondria, so when this acetyl coenzyme enters into the mitochondria, the tricarboxylic acid cycle chain reactions take place in mitochondria. So after entering this acetyl coenzyme in mitochondria, then there is a tricarboxylic acid cyclic chain reactions occur in mitochondria, and after completing the oxidation of this acetyl coenzyme A in mitochondria, then it releases the molecules of carbon dioxide, water, NADH2 and FADH2. So this is all happen in this tricarboxylic acid cycle. This cyclic reaction of this tricarboxylic acid cycle was discovered by the scientist Hans Crepe. So this process is also called as a Crepe cycle. So another name for this tricarboxylic acid cycle is Crepe cycle. So it is also known as a Crepe cycle because these cyclic reactions are discovered by Hans Crepe. So it is also known as a Crepe cycle, and for this research he awarded a Nobel Prize in 1953. So this tricarboxylic acid cycle is also another name, that is Crepe cycle. And after that last process or last step we have seen, that is ETC reaction, that is electron transfer chain reaction. And we have seen that in this reaction, the electron transfer chain reaction which is take place in the mitochondria, and what happens in this, the molecules of NADH2, FADH2, they forming during the above process, they take part or they participate in the electron transfer chain reaction, and after that from one NADH2, that is one NADH2, there is a 3 ATP molecules are formed, and from one FADH2 there is a formation of 2 ATP molecules. So in this way there is a formation of energy, and along with there is also a water molecules also formed in this chain reaction. Thus in aerobic respiration these three processes are occurs, that is glycolysis, which is also known as a EMP pathway. Then second one is tricarboxylic acid cycle, which is also known as a Crepe cycle, and last one is ETC, that is electron transfer chain reaction, in which ATP molecules are formed. So finally we have say that one molecule of glucose, it gives carbon dioxide, water along with the energy after completion of the oxidation in the presence of oxygen. So this all happens in this aerobic respiration, and there is a formation of energy, that is 38 ATP molecules is formed in this aerobic respiration. Now ATP. So today we are going to learn about the ATP. See in this chart ATP diagram of this ATP is also given. So we have to study about the ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. So ATP, full form of this ATP is adenosine triphosphate. So this ATP molecules, that is a energy, it is an energy rich molecule. So these molecules gives quick source of energy. These ATP molecules, it gives quick source of energy. So it is also called as a energy currency. See what ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, it is called as a energy currency. Energy currency. See, we have used our currency to expand in same manner. For doing any function by our body, it requires energy, and that energy provided by these ATP molecules. So it is called as a energy currency, because our body works with the help of energy which was provided by ATP. So it is our currency. And these ATP molecules, these are produced in mitochondria. So mitochondria is called as a powerhouse of energy. So this mitochondria is called as a powerhouse of energy. And now we have to see what is the structure of this ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. See, in this chart you have to see it carefully. Here is energy currency, which means ATP. Our energy currency is ATP. So adenosine triphosphate, full form adenosine triphosphate. Now we have to study its structure. See, this molecule, that is ATP molecule or adenosine triphosphate, it is an energy rich molecule, and it contains, see what are the contents of this ATP molecule. So it contains a nitrogenous compound, that is adenine. See, ATP contains adenine. After that, it contains pentose sugar, that is called as a ribose. Second one is pentose sugar, that is ribose sugar, ribose. And last one is phosphates, that is it contains 3 phosphate groups. So ATP, it contains adenine, which is a nitrogenous compound, that is adenine, then pentose sugar, that is ribose, and 3 phosphate groups. So ATP contains these 3 constituents. Now we have to see its structure, that is structure of ATP molecule. Now in this diagram you have to see that adenine, which means this hexagon and pentagon, which form adenine. Now we will see here. First one is adenine. We have seen the structure of ATP. Adenine, which contains hexagon as well as pentagon structure. Now so this is called as a adenine. It is the structure of adenine. As we know that ATP contain nitrogenous group, that is adenine. After that it contains pentose sugar, that is called as a ribose. So here is a ribose sugar, which is pentose. So it also contains 5 angles, that is pentose. it is a ribose sugar. This is adenine, then ribose sugar, and last constituent is 3 phosphate groups. So we have to attach here 3 phosphate groups. 1, 2, 3. 3 phosphate groups are there. So this is the structure of ATP molecules. See, adenine, then ribose sugar, and then 3 phosphate groups are attached here. So this is the structure of ATP molecule. As per need, energy is derived. As per our need, energy is derived by the phosphate bond of this ATP. Hence ATP is called as the energy currency of cell. Now we have seen how the energy is formed. In this phosphate group, it contains energy, that is, there is a bond between this group, and in this bond there is a large amount of energy. So this large amount of energy is present in this bond. So while this bond is breaks, see, while this phosphate bond is breaks, then there is a release of high energy, and after this breakdown of this bond, this phosphate group is removed or releases, because this phosphate bond contains more energy, and after the breakdown of this group, then there is a high amount of energy is released. So see here what is given here: ATP, which contains full energy. After this breakdown of this phosphate group, then there is a release of high energy, and then ATP, which is converted into a ADP, which contains very low amount of energy, that is ADP. See, after removal of one phosphate group, there is only 2 phosphate group. Hence the name is given adenosine diphosphate, because one phosphate group is removed or it breakdowns, and hence there is a formation of or there is a release of high energy in this process. So in this way there is a formation of energy, or energy is released as per our requirement. So this is about the structure of this ATP molecules, and also how the energy is released by ATP. This we have seen with the help of this diagram. Also in this chart, this diagram is shown. So this is about the ATP. Now next point, that is process of energy production through the aerobic respiration of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. So as we have seen that for the formation of energy, carbohydrates are mainly utilized, but if there is a insufficient amount of carbohydrates in our body, at that time the lipids or proteins, they are used for the energy production. So in this diagram there is a lipids and proteins are also utilized for the production of energy, but when they are used, if there is a deficiency of these carbohydrates, at that time lipids and proteins, they are used for the energy production. So in case of lipids, see in this chart or also in your book, this diagram is given on page number 15. See what happens in this. in the case of lipids, these lipids are converted into fatty acids. See what happens? These lipids are converted into fatty acids, and then these fatty acids are converted into acetyl coenzyme, and after that Crepe cycles occurs, and then there is a formation of energy. This is about the lipids. Same when proteins are used or utilized for making the energy, what happens? Then proteins are converted into amino acids. See, proteins are converted into amino acids, and after that they are converted into acetyl coenzyme, and then after that energy is obtained by the complete oxidation of this acetyl coenzyme by the process of Krebs cycle in mitochondria. So in this way, if there is a insufficient amount of carbohydrates, in that case lipids and proteins are utilized for making energy, and in that process what happens? Lipids are converted into fatty acids and proteins are converted into amino acids, and then what happens? These fatty acids and amino acids, they are converted into acetyl coenzyme, and energy is obtained by the complete oxidation of this acetyl coenzyme by the process of Krebs cycle in mitochondria. So in this way there is a process of energy production by the carbohydrates, proteins and fats. So this is about the aerobic respiration or energy formation in aerobic respiration. This is all about the aerobic respiration, in which 38 ATP molecules are formed. Now our next point is anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration, that is energy production in the microorganisms through the anaerobic respiration. म्हणजे मायक्रोऑर्गॅनिझम्स मध्ये जी काही एनर्जी फॉर्म होते ती या अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशनने होते. तर त्याच्याविषयी आपल्याला आता माहिती बघायची आहे. ॲज यू नो दॅट व्हॉट इज अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन, दॅट इज दिस anaerobic respiration, it does not involve oxygen or it does not use the free form of oxygen, so it is called as a anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration we have seen that there is a complete oxidation of glucose and there is a formation of 38 ATP molecules. Now our next point is energy production in microorganisms through the anaerobic respiration. So in anaerobic respiration, see, in this anaerobic respiration free molecules of oxygen is not used, but the compound form of oxygen is used in this anaerobic respiration. So this is anaerobic respiration. See, some aerobic respiration or a process of energy production through the aerobic respirations of carbohydrate, proteins and fats. In this process we have seen that there is a formation of 38 ATP molecules. Now next point is anaerobic respiration in living organisms or cells. See how there is a formation of energy in this living organisms or cells by the anaerobic respiration, that is they does not involve oxygen in this process. So free form of oxygen molecules are not utilized for the production of energy in this anaerobic respiration. Now we have to see what is the process in this anaerobic respiration. See, some bacteria and some lower organisms, they do not live in the प्रेझेन्स ऑफ ऑक्सिजन. म्हणजे ऑक्सिजन जर असेल तर त्या ठिकाणी हे काही बॅक्टेरिया किंवा काही लोअर ऑर्गॅनिझम जे आहे ते त्या ठिकाणी जगू शकत नाही. सो दे परफॉर्म अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन फॉर द एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन. मग असे जे काही ऑर्गॅनिझम्स आहे ज्याला आपण मायक्रो ऑर्गॅनिझम्स म्हणूया, मग ते मायक्रो ऑर्गॅनिझम जे आहे ते काय करतात, दे perform anaerobic respiration for the production of energy, because they also require energy for doing the functions. म्हणजे त्यांना देखील काय एनर्जीची आवश्यकता असते आणि मग ती एनर्जी ते अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशनच्या माध्यमातून काय करतात, दे फॉर्म्स दिस एनर्जी. नाउ अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन इट हॅज 2 steps. सी, anaerobic respiration has 2 steps, that is first one is glycolysis and second one is fermentation. So in anaerobic respiration there are 2 important steps, that is glycolysis and fermentation. So glycolysis we have seen in earlier, that is in aerobic respiration. See, in this case during the anaerobic respiration, what happens, glucose is incompletely oxidized, so there is a release of less amount of energy in this anaerobic respiration. Rather in aerobic respiration there is a complete oxidation of glucose molecules and hence there is a large amount of energy, that is 38 ATP molecules are formed in cell. So in anaerobic respiration there is a incomplete oxidation of glucose and hence it releases less amount of energy. See what happens here in glycolysis, what happens, glucose which is converted into a PA, that is pyruvic acids. Glucose is converted into pyruvic acid by the process of glycolysis, and after that it is converted, this pyruvic acid is converted into organic acids or alcohols. This pyruvic acid is converted into alcohol and organic acids. This pyruvic acid is converted into organic acids or alcohols by the process which is called as a fermentation. So by the process of fermentation, this pyruvic acid which was produced in glycolysis is converted into organic acids or alcohol, that is ethanol or ethyl alcohol, and this process is aided by some enzymes of microorganism, because this fermentation process which was done by the microorganisms like yeast or bacteria. See, in fermentation it is a process in which substances are break down into simpler substances by the microorganisms like yeast or bacteria. Now fermentation, what happens in this process, see we have to see their equation of this fermentation. Now equation of fermentation, so in this equation what happens in fermentation process is mentioned, that is this is a glucose C6H12O6 glucose molecule which is converted into ethanol, 2 molecules of ethanol. Also there is a formation of 2 molecules of CO2, carbon dioxide, and there is a formation of energy, that is 2 ATP molecules, or less amount of energy is formed in this process. So this is the equation of this fermentation process, and in this fermentation process, one molecule of this glucose, one molecule of the glucose is converted into two molecules of ethanol and two molecules of carbon dioxide, and there is a formation of energy, that is 2 ATP molecules are formed. So in this way this fermentation process is occurs. So this is the equation of fermentation process. Now next one is, see in this chart there is a anaerobic respiration process is given. So in this process, glucose, which is converted into a pyruvic acid by the process of glycolysis, and after that this pyruvic acid is converted into a organic acids or alcohols, vinegars, by the fermentation process, which was done by the enzymes of microorganisms like yeast or bacteria. So in this way there is a formation of these organic acids, alcohols, and less amount of energy is formed, as we have seen in the equation of fermentation. So in this way this process occurs in microorganisms. Now see, if there is a deficiency of oxygen level in surrounding, some higher plants, animals, and aerobic microorganisms also perform this anaerobic respiration. See, समजा सभोवताली ऑक्सिजनची कमतरता असेल तर त्या ठिकाणी सम हायर प्लांट्स, म्हणजे काही उच्चवर्गीय जे काही प्लांट्स आहे किंवा ॲनिमल्स आहे ते देखील काय करतात, दे ऑल्सो परफॉर्म अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन. इवन human being also perform this anaerobic respiration. We will see in examples. See, if the soil is submerged under the water during the germination of seeds, it performs anaerobic respiration. म्हणजे बघा बीजांकुरणाच्या वेळेस ज्यावेळेस जमीन ही पाण्याखाली पूर्णपणे बुडलेली असेल त्यावेळी सीड्स जी ती बीजे जी आहे ती काय करतात, दे डू द अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन. त्यावेळेस ते सीड्स काय करतात, अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन करतात आणि एनर्जी गेन करतात. सिमिलरली दिस इज an example of plant. Similarly in human being, see, in human muscle cells, while performing the exercise may also switch to anaerobic respiration. म्हणजे आपण ज्यावेळेस खूप एक्सरसाइज करतो त्यावेळेस त्या ठिकाणी आपले ज्या मसल्स आहेत ते देखील काय करतात, दे परफॉर्म अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन. इट मेक्स द पर्सन फील टायर्ड. आणि मग ज्यावेळेस ही प्रोसेस चालते त्यावेळेस जो पर्सन आहे म्हणजे तो जो व्यक्ती आहे एक्सरसाइज करणारा त्याला त्या ठिकाणी काय, इट फील टायर्ड ड्यू टू द लेस अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी is released and due to a lactic acid accumulation. कारण बघा ज्यावेळेस आपण एक्सरसाइज करतो त्यावेळेस आपली जास्त एनर्जी त्या ठिकाणी काय होत असते, रिलीज, जास्त एनर्जी जी आहे ती आपण युटिलाइज करत असतो. आणि मग त्यावेळेस आपल्या ज्या मसल सेल्स आहेत ते काय करतात, दे डू द अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशन अँड व्हेरी लेस अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी इज रिलीज. आणि मग त्या ठिकाणी अनएरोबिक रेस्पिरेशनमुळे त्या ठिकाणी जी एनर्जी तयार होते ती खूप थोड्या प्रमाणामध्ये तयार होते, त्यामुळे आपल्याला थकवा आल्यासारखा वाटतो. आणि त्याचबरोबर त्या ठिकाणी लॅक्टिक ऍसिड जो आहे तो देखील त्या ठिकाणी साठत असतो आणि त्याच्यामुळे आपल्याला त्या ठिकाणी टायर्डनेस किंवा थकवा जो आहे तो जाणवतो. सो इन दिस वे हायर प्लांट्स, ॲनिमल्स, इवन ह्युमन बीइंग ऑल्सो perform this anaerobic respiration when there is a deficiency of oxygen. At that time they perform this living things or these living organisms perform anaerobic respiration, and in this anaerobic respiration there is a only two ATP molecules are formed. So if we compare that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, we have in exam we have asked this question, that is differentiate between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So some important points are like oxygen is required in aerobic respiration, and while in anaerobic respiration you have to write that oxygen is not required for anaerobic respiration. Next one is aerobic respiration. It takes place in the nucleus as well as cytoplasm of the cell, and while this anaerobic respiration is occurs only in the cytoplasm of the cell. Now next one is energy is produced in large amount in this aerobic respiration, and while in anaerobic respiration there is a lesser amount of energy is produced. In aerobic respiration 38 molecules of ATP are formed during the aerobic respiration, and while in anaerobic respiration 2 molecules of ATP are formed during this anaerobic respiration. So these are the different points that you have to write in this differentiation between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So you have to write these points.